All right, here we are in Waterville, Maine, and finally found my official favorite Maine beer. This is it, Grain State Lager. Boy, this replaces Yingling, which has been my all-time favorite beer since about 2003. So not all-time, but a long time. And yeah, and I've been here 3 months, and it's taken me 3 months to find Green State Lager. I haven't even memorized the name yet, but I just blew through this whole zero gravity craft brewery, you know, uh, this artfully done piece of barley and wheat you got going there. They just mixed it like artists and they give it to you and you say, my God, this is good. I love it. It was good. But anyway, this is more about the politics. I'm going into politics here, so quick run to your safe spaces, your little lefty bubbles or your lefty vacuums. Get up in there, quick. Just keep hearing the same bullshit they're feeding you because it is just that, folks, bullshit. And I'm about to prove it. So I go to Maine. I make a difference. I'm not just coming here to get away from those fucking problems I got away from in southern New Jersey the last 3 years I was there, um, but to make sure that shit doesn't make it up here. That's that far leftist blue shit. They should call it brown states because they turn states brown like shit, but rather than blue. But it is still B, so Anyways, what we got here is a letter I wrote to the Forecaster, a woman in there. There's two far leftists that write for the Forecaster out of Portland, Maine, and you try to read it. Dog walking. Oh, man caught a freaking swordfish. Yay, whatever. And then now we gotta fucking talk some white guilt bullshit on you, and over college design narratives from hippie professors that never got their way in the 60s. Now they want to ruin the world today. So that's the type of people we got cropping up left and right today, and we got to make a difference. So we got to push back. So I wrote this woman, I don't know what the article was, but it was obviously far leftist narrative ideology bullshit, and I opposed it. And I wanted to let her know, and this is what we have to do. So take it as an example. Maybe do this with your local paper that tries pushing this leftist garbage. It's a cult, people. It's just a cult, and these are atheists. They tend to be atheists, and yet they laugh at us. They think Christians are a cult, and there are religious cults. There's religious cults, that break off of Christianity, but that's just people getting it wrong, flawed people on a broken planet. Don't try to treat the religion itself like it's flawed. It's perfect. Just read it and you'll be convinced. It's people that just can't live by its lofty rules and for mankind, to create better societies, that will prosper and live peacefully amongst each other. That's why we've had so much peace and prosperity for so long when there was so much faith for Christianity, and but they broke off into Presbyterian, evangelists, uterine, uterine. You know what I mean? And that was just to trip us up and the devil's divide. But you've heard me say that before. So here it is, the article. Where are we? 4 minutes already? All right, not too bad. Here's me writing Heather D. Martin, creative engagement between concept and community. Shit. And give her a call. Let her know. 207-460-1587. Let her know we don't want this crap in Maine. And say it peacefully. Say it respectfully. But, be, forceful with your words. You can't arrest you for fucking words, unless you're threatening. So, with words, don't threaten. No need for that. So here I write, I am a new reader of the Forecaster, and I can't help but to notice all your, and only your, I later became aware that there's one other one, articles of a far leftist narrative slant. I speak of most Mainers when I tell you Your extremist rhetoric regarding local social matters are not helpful and mostly toxic. Your articles are not fact-based, but based merely in current progressive liberal talking points and flawed ideology that flies in the face of common sense, natural law, and statistical research. Paragraph 2. Your efforts are divisive in nature and only cause resentment among colored locals, and white guilt, self-loathing among longtime Caucasian Mainers whose ancestors settled this land, whether you believe so or not. I would kindly recommend you back off on the far leftist brainwashing efforts and simply report on common local matters that we can all relate to, regardless of racial identity that so absorbs leftists in this age. Whether you realize this or not, notice I say that twice, because I know she doesn't realize this, or she wouldn't be pushing her far leftist bullshit. Glad to peacefully discuss or debate this matter further with you publicly, or here if you wish to be enlightened by more fact-based conservative ways of thinking, with a little smiley winkety wink, a little winkety winky. Thanks for your time. Be well, and may God forgive you. Yeah, because you're doing the devil's work, whether you realize it or not. You know, a lot of people that do the devil's work don't even believe in the devil. You know, don't mean that's not he's not utilizing you. Sincerely, Renard of Uncanny Conceptions, Facebook. All right, so there you go. Then she writes back, and quite quickly too. I think it was the next day. Well, we'll find out for sure. She writes back on the 13th. I wrote on the I don't know. Doesn't show there. So 13th, same day. He's on the ball. So, good afternoon, Renard. First off, thank you for reading The Forecaster and for writing. It is always great to know there is dialogue happening. Yeah, right. Not nearly enough, especially not enough between the right and the left. Yeah, there's plenty of dialogue that you all just agree upon amongst yourselves, and we do amongst ourselves. But no, we have to make the crossover. We have to create that bridge of communication. And this is what this video is all about. I'll then move on to wow, followed by I'm sure it is no surprise I see it differently. You are, of course, fully at liberty to not like and even not read my article. But as to the points you raise, I'll take them one at a time. Let's see if we can work our way through, shall we? As if she's a teacher and she's going to teach me something. Again, that's how they all think, you know. But 1, yes, I am fairly far left. There it is, right there, fairly far left. This is something I have owned, openly and repeatedly. Yeah, because you think you're in the right. You think you're virtuous by being far left. But it's being more and more exposed these days by that you guys are the extremists, you know. You're trying to change what is, you know, hundreds of years of what is, you know, and the underlying thing is pushing communism, and she's either a useful idiot that's helping with the master plan, you know, or what, but get off topic here. Take them, let's see, yes, I am fairly far leftist and I think fairly openly about this. My piece is not journalism. It is an opinion piece, clearly labeled as such within the opinion section. Not research, not balanced journalism, opinion. I do not leave my readers to wonder. I state pretty darn plainly my own biases, even when they are ones I am not proud of or are struggling with, however. I do not leave readers wondering. Yeah, we know you're not leaving readers wondering. That's why I'm writing you. You're so obvious in your far leftist slant. And yeah, she thinks she has biases too. Yeah, you have biases against your own fellow white people. That's where you're racist these days. That's the problem. Because what happens is they have to work so hard to prove they're not racist against blacks, Asian, Hispanics, Indonesian, whatever, that they end up getting to such a degree that they then resent their own kind openly to prove to the browner or the colored races that, look, I hate my own kind, you know. That's where your bias is, not for other people. Yeah, and they are racist, but because, you know, it's not racism, it's instinct. We're all just instinctually, prone to want to be among our own kind. And when you force another culture on the host culture, some people are going to have a problem with it, especially if you're trying, it's resulting in changing the host culture, in their homelands. Anybody should be pissed off about that. It is not racism. It's only racism if you act back in hate and destruction, But if I hate anyone these days, if I have to fight from hating anyone, it's white leftists. I don't hate any other race. I love them all. I want them all to live in peace and prosperity in their own countries. And the ones that do come here and we go there, then we go to your country, then we as white people must assimilate to Mexico. We must assimilate to Africa. But you come to us and you must assimilate to our standards. It's not systemic racism. It is just a higher standard that creates civility, that causes less crime and more functionality between the communities. Sorry, maybe you want to adopt that rather than start blaming us for fucking hating us for fucking being the ones, that got there first. So what? Nobody cares. It's there. It's there for you to enjoy and take in yourself, be a part of. But assimilate. Even as such, I am actually a fact-based writer. I never give a fact or a quote or a statistic without citing my sources. Those don't always make it into print, but they are always part of my work. I am a research-minded gal and would never dream of putting something into print without having vetted it for accuracy. If that were true, you'd be right-wing by now. If I write something I can't verify, I make that part of my actual piece so folks know it is speculation or unverified. So while you are fully entitled to dislike my work, that particular critique is inaccurate. I'm happy to send you the sources and citations for any fact you might question. Just getting some COVID out the window. That last bit of COVID, boy. But it's safe in here. These people can't catch it, if you notice. After paper balances my opinion pieces with far-right opinion pieces, you might find them much more to your liking. The paper balances my opinion pieces with far-right opinion pieces. Fuck you, they do not. They're moderately right opinion pieces. It's just by white people, predominantly white, because you're in a predominantly white area, but that means white supremacy to them. And, we talk about, conservative this or that, maybe. I've been reading this paper for 3 months now. There is no far right. There's too far left. No far right, maybe moderately, lightly conservative. And they feel they got to apologize for saying, hey, maybe we should work for a living, The rhetoric of your message, well, again, you are free to feel as you do, but I disagree. Of course you do. While I never shy away from hot topic, often uncomfortable to discuss, I never do so in a divisive way. I believe that it is our job to call out systematic racism, here we go, bias and misogyny when we see it. Where do you see it? In third world culture. So you don't see misogyny to the degree in first world culture as you do in a third world culture. But you should never point that out. While always leaving a path back to a united community. If you go back and read old articles of mine, though I confess you might find that torturous, you will find lots of pieces on finding ways to get along through our pointed differences. In fact, I wrote one about my new neighbor who has a 100% opposite political stance, and with whom I have had many friendly encounters. I'm about building community, but not about overlooking injustice. The two things can happen together. White guilt. I think you are confusing acknowledging with shame. No. Which is easy to do. Then what is white guilt, lady? You won't even acknowledge that is a thing that you're perpetuating. However, I do not conflate the two. Shame in my mind is not productive. When we sink into it, it leaves us incapable of moving forward. I am interested in us all moving forward to something better. However, this also requires truthful owning of the history, not to mention the present. I will not own history. I will admit what it is, but I don't have to own it. That's stating that it's my responsibility. History of our country, not to mention the present. However, this also requires truthful owning of this, not to mention the present. This country, which I love, was founded in problematic ways. No, it wasn't. It's people that crossed over into this country, not knowing who was here first, and even who was here first migrated on foot when the land masses were fused together. And yeah, there's no rule book when we got here how to settle the land for us. Mistakes were made, blood was shed, but by warring factors that were warring between each other long before we got here and joined the war. I confess, you might find that torture. You will find lots of pieces on finding ways, while always leaving a path. If you go back and read you will find lots of pieces on finding ways to get along through our differences, pointed differences. In fact, I wrote one about my new neighbor who has 100% opposite political stance, and with whom I have had many friendly encounters. I am about building community, but not about overlooking injustice. The two things can happen together. Yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to overlook injustice. That's what she's stating here, basically. White guilt. If you are confusing acknowledging which, oh my God, I just backed. So that's that. Enough of her bullshit. Let's get back to my reply. Good evening, Heather. Thanks for the speedy and civil reply. Enough of the formalities, though. Allow me to reply to some of what you had said. I believe if you truly followed wherever the facts led and not your precious critical race theory, I trust you would deeply consider repositioning your political stance to the right. I know this video is backwards, and to the right is that way to you, but there are no far-right opinion pieces in the Forecaster. Mildly moderate only, if any. But I am sure from your perspective they would come off as far-right, as the left is easily triggered these days, to the point of requiring safe spaces when faced with alternate opinions actually based on facts and research. Systemic racism is a far leftist myth perpetuated to further their extremist agendas. You mistaken white culture's high expectations for achievement as systemic racism. We did build Europe, America, and Canada, after all. It is not our fault that incoming developing third world cultures struggle to keep up with Western white high standards and expectations in our own settlements, namely America, Europe, and Canada. I believe the lives of human races are equal in worth and value, but our separate cultures are not and can never hope to be equal. Some cultures are simply better than others. Proven again and again. Not debatable, folks, but I love to debate with you. If this were not so, Caucasians would be illegally migrating to developing nations rather than them constantly trying to enter ours. White privilege is a farce. Affirmative action is just some proof of black privilege, though. Just some proof of black privilege. Affirmative action. You get the job because of your color over me, and even if I may be more qualified. But I got the privilege somehow. And there's far more privileges they have than that, but I could go on. White privilege. I can name far more. Misogyny is yet another evil leftist myth. Men and women simply have different pursuits and goals that, when compared, can seem unequal, but are not. History is being forcibly rewritten by the left through Antifa and BLM, violent, destructive riots, being claimed as peaceful protests by those like you in the media. Tearing down historical markers and burning cities down is the only way your position knows how to make the change you so desire. Because nobody's going to buy into it, except for brainwashing, because it's not common sense based. Proof is in all the current news reports. I don't think you are evil, but you are being misled by evil forces beyond your understanding. I plead with you to rethink your toxic political position. It is only leading to civil war. Sincerely yours, Renard. And then she never got back to me, of course, after that. She knew she'd been won out by somebody who knows what he's talking about. So One other matter, since I moved up here 3 months now, a little over, um, is I was walking downtown Brunswick, Maine, very close to where I live for now, and I enjoy that little downtown. Bowdoin College is there, and there's a little Christian Science bookstore. And I've seen these around New England states. They seem to be up here more than anywhere else. I don't know why. Oh, because Christian Science was founded here in Concord, New Hampshire, and so it's a little bookstore. You go in, you read, like a mini library. So then I saw on the sign a placard about this big, with all blocks of all the faces of the black people who would die by the hands of cops. And it made them out to seem like they were the victims of police violence and systemic racism and racist cops. When in every case, I knew them all because they cram them all down our throats. You know, uh, they resisted arrest and they were violent and they were, justifiably being, investigated by police. And they either run or they retaliate or try to fight back. And you can't fight the cops. The cop has every right to then shoot you down. Why would you want to? Just deal with it in court if they're wrong. But the black culture, the way it is in the last 50 years or so, they're taught to resent cops, taught to, be suspicious of the law and the judicial system, and they think it's built against them, this pipeline from uh, and it's all given to them by the far left, these ideas, and then so they don't think they have to comply, and then they get shot down. And statistically, this bears out. More whites in America are killed by police on a yearly basis. Look it up. It's true, you know. And yet, blacks are the minority, and yet they make up the far greater amount of crime statistically, and so you're going to have more, deadly altercations with the police if your community is causing more crime. It should just be common sense here, people. So anyway, I went in. I had this debate with the woman inside, nice little liberal white, flowery woman, hippie, old hippie, you could tell, obviously. And we sat together in, adjoining seats and looked on across each other, and just, I started this topic with her, and I brought up the sign in the window, and, we went over it. And, I was cutting her down logically left and right, and she knew it. This is an older woman; she probably had 20-something years on me, but but it was peaceable, and we walked away pleasantly. She probably wanted to, she probably felt mortified and defeated by the time I walked out because I hit her with facts and logic, and she's just going on ideology, and that's not founded in facts and logic and common sense. And so a week later, I come back, I pass there, and the sign is down. It's down. It's gone, people. The woman, or it's just, I made an impression on this older woman through that peaceful debate between me and her. It must have lasted 20 minutes, and more or less, and she took it down. I said, that's a divisive sign. That is dividing us. That is making white people feel guilty about our society being systemically racist when it's not so. It's making black people resent white people and become more violent against us and Asians as they are now. And the mainstream leftist fake news media tries to fucking find a way to blame white people for that when it's obviously black on Asian crime and over the COVID stuff. That's how their culture deals with it. Cultures are not equal. They're separate. They're different. And some do clash. And you invite one culture into another. Don't just expect it to meld right in like just melting chocolate together. They will clash. It's a culture clash. It's a thing. And so you could make a difference. You could go in. You could see that Black Lives Matter sign on somebody's front lawn, like I've already done. And the man was mowing his lawn, and I stopped and said, "Look, this is a Marxist group of communists and the haters of white people. This is a hate group. You know, the protests are not protests, they're riots, and they burnt down our cities, costing us billions in taxpayer money. This is, this is not something to support. You're in almost all white Maine. Do your research. Black people are not being killed for being black. If they are, it's by their fellow blacks. Black on black crime. Look that one up. So I love black people. I love all races. I just know cultures are different. And, if your culture is coming into ours, it must assimilate. It must accept the host culture. And then, gradually, integrate some of your own culture as well. But don't try to take over. Don't try to destroy, what you came into, something better. We want to welcome you, but be a part of it. Don't be a separate part within the whole. Be, inclusive. Be you know what I mean. So make a difference. God loves you. I love you. No matter who you are, just be common sense, and you're going to fall into being a right-wing conservative. Far right is no good, nor is far left, but just right-wing conservative. It's what built the greatest countries on earth. Christian conservative, mind you. God bless you.